This will be the fourth episode. We're 3 episodes in. Have a lot of growth thanks to you guys helping out, getting the word out, doing watch parties, sharing it on Facebook and other social media platforms. Getting a lot of viewership. Last episode with Jordan Lee was really good. And we got Randy Howell up tonight. And then next week will be the fourth. Since Jordan had 2 classics, Howell's got a classic. And next week is the most recent classic winner, Hank Cherry. So got a lot to talk about tonight with Randy Howell. Got a good show coming up next week with Hank Cherry, and then after that, we'll see what's next. But without further ado, let's slide Randy Howell into the show. What's going on, Randy Howell?
I'm trying to get up here in position.
I heard
we got a little room right here.
Yeah.
Figured I'd get back here in the bedroom so I wouldn't get interrupted by all the crazy folks I got running around in here.
I heard that. How's everything been going in the COVID world?
Oh, it's going all right. We've been making it good here at Lake Guntersville. I'm getting my rods up here on the bed. I don't put my rods in the bed very often, but I'm gonna put them up here tonight to sleep. But
no hook on there.
I put my jersey on too, bro. I said I ain't had a derby in so long.
Yeah,
we might as well just get it out of the closet tonight. Look at here. We got to represent for everybody tonight. We can't just pick a couple tonight. I know we got Mercury, Lowrance, and Daiwa, our sponsors on the show tonight, which are good buddies and sponsors of mine. But I figured I'd go ahead and get it all out tonight. And we're kind of act like we're fishing a tournament tonight, and then we'll be disappointed and put it back at the end.
Yeah, I like it, man. You look good, looking fresh. What about this? One thing I was going to ask you about. I mean, I don't know if anybody was more prepared for the barbershop shutdown than you were. I mean, it never checked up on your haircut, had it?
Check this out right here, man. I cut my own hair last week, and I saw you cut yours a while back, and it made me a little bit nervous about trying to do mine, but I couldn't wait no longer. So I got here, and I was proud of myself because I can always cut the sides and the top pretty good, but the back, I can't see back there, of course. So I put my guard on. I went up the back. I started at 10:45 at night, and I was done at 12:30. Honestly, Robin was asleep. I knew she'd be mad if she knew I was doing it, so I waited. She went to sleep. When she got up next morning, she said, "Holy cow, what happened to you last night?" And I said, "I cut my hair." But we got it now. I don't think I'm gonna be able to sit here with this X a little bit off the side of my head. I think I'm gonna have to move over because that ADD in me. Which way I gotta go? I gotta go this way.
Yeah, getting a little.
That's like being a picture frame, being crooked on the wall. I can't handle that. So I'm gonna get right in the center of this X right here. How about that?
I like it.
There we go. Now I feel better.
Well, I would like to tell everybody we're gonna have a lot of Q&A in this. So if you got questions, make some comments over there. Derek Horner, our producer, is in the background. He's gonna be watching for us to send us some of the better questions and get some of y'all stuff in front of Randy Howell, who is an NLF Pro Bassmaster Classic champ, all around good guy and hammer. So one question I had for you, Hal, in this time it's really important, but one thing that you've always done, you've always tried to find ways to make yourself more valuable to the companies you work with. One thing we were talking about when we're kind of getting ready for the show, I was running around doing the GoPro stuff for bass whenever we were just getting started doing that. Never had happened before. And, a lot of guys didn't want a camera in their boat because, you don't know if you can trust the videographer or whatever. And you don't want that stuff to get out, especially day 1, day 2, that kind of deal. But you were one of the first guys to say, yeah, man, throw a camera on the boat because you knew it would be valuable to your sponsorships. And after that, when I kind of wound down with bass, I actually stayed out as a contract, working for myself and would go out and put GoPros on boats and work with a few of the anglers like Randy Howell, and some of his sponsors would actually pay me to go out and edit this video for them and have the GoPros ready and everything. So you were one of the first to do that. And you see that all over the place too now. So what are you looking at now? I mean, just like you do these podcasts, jumping on this, what are you doing now to try to add value all the time for your sponsors? What's the next thing?
Yeah, right now, Shaye, everybody's just trying to do the best they can and just maintain and get the exposure. If this had happened 10 years ago before social media and we'd all been shut down like this, man, everybody would have really been in trouble. I really think it would have really been, more devastated financially than it is. But because of social media, man, I'm telling you, we really haven't missed a beat, and our other, we're still getting the same exposure thanks to all the fans, a lot of folks that are watching tonight, of course, and everybody that takes time to go on our Instagram pages, Facebook pages, Twitter, whatever, and read our stuff or especially like it, view it. That is just straight numbers that we're able to feed right to our sponsors, and let them know that we're still engaging our fans and our friends, and we're keeping people informed and keeping them entertained and trying to get their minds off of all the negative on the news, and just keep their mind on fishing until they can fish through this, so to speak. Has the hashtag fish through it. That's kind of what we're all been saying, and that's what we're doing. And we're blessed to live here at Lake Guntersville, because we're in a great town and community that has kept on rolling pretty good. I mean, it's been a lot of people here fishing from in-state and out of state, and we've been able to go out on the water, and we work a few hours out there, make some video, put some stuff up on our stories, and just keep people engaged in what's going on in the fishing world. And Major League Fishing's done a great job of trying to do that daily by having the live Facebook events with different anglers. Me and Robin did one early in the beginning, and then every week since then there's been 2 a day, I think, with anglers competing against each other live. So we're all trying to be creative, come up with as much as we can, and staying in contact with these companies we're working for to make sure that they don't have any specific needs, because we want to get it. We got to help them get through it as bad as we got to get ourselves through it, because we don't want them to be hurt, because if they're hurt, we're going to be hurt down the road even more than we are now from it. So we're just trying to do what we can to take care of everybody, and we just hope and pray this gets over quickly, and hope and pray that all the fishing fan base that we all have that follow all of us as professional anglers will just really realize that step up and try to help these companies get keep buying your products, keep getting online and shopping on BassPro.com or wherever, and getting your Daiwa and your Livingston, your Yamamoto, all the stuff that we support, and help these people out, because we don't want to see the fishing industry get into a bad rut, and by no means, because we all love it too much.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad going on with this, and I don't mean to minimize any of that, but like with all adversity, there comes an opportunity, for growth and for adaptability. And if you can, kind of figure out a way to, like a lot of the guys talking about having the online, one-on-one tournaments and stuff like that, a lot of the live content. I've seen a lot of anglers go out and, have little head-to-head matchups and stuff. It's very interesting. Mm-hmm. It's something that would have worked before all this happened, but until you needed to do something else, or you didn't have the time to, a lot of times. But and I know it's a team effort on y'all's end with Robin and the boys, and y'all all do a real good job with it. So keep it up. We enjoy it, and
I appreciate it. We would have been doing even more if I started building a garage right as the season kind of was starting in January, and I was thinking it was going to get done pretty easily and quickly while we were out of town, and because I don't need to be here watching it and getting in on it, because I'll drive guys crazy. I'm so particular if they don't get every nail just right and every bit of trash picked up or whatever. It drives me nuts. So I've been here and I've been out there every day in the middle of it. In the last 2 weeks especially, I hadn't really got much fishing done, because I've been able to get out there and help save myself some money without paying other people. I've been able to help do stuff to save myself some money. So that's really bound us up. But hopefully it's getting close to being done, not quite, but hopefully we'll get to do a little bit more fishing over these next few weeks.
Yeah, that's a nice looking shop, and I was actually trying to pull up a picture you sent me the other day, but it's gonna be one of those deals where I don't think you're gonna be able to stay in there very long. You're gonna get rooted out by the boys.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's exactly right. He's going to college up here, and he's living at home, and he's got his boat, and he's like, which side's mine? I want the side on the right, and you take the side on the left. I'm like, well, that's the side I want anyway, so we'll be good. He said, well, I want the slat board on this side. And I'm like, look, what are you about to put on a slat board? Everything you got is my stuff anyway. It ain't like you need your own slat board to hang your stuff at. He's crazy. So, but anyway, it's fun, and we're going to have all our tackle organized. We'll have a good place to do video and pictures and do stuff out there. So we'll be showing all that as we finally get it done.
Nothing wrong with that. Well, want to remind everybody we're on here with Randy Howell. This is Wishin I Was Fishin. Shaye Baker here, and you can help us get the word out, get the show going. We're about 10 minutes in, so we're going to start getting into some of the meat of it. But hit share, hit like, do whatever you got to do on social media to help us get this thing going and start a watch party. Help us out and
I wonder.
Ask all.
We'll throw many folks watched the Lowrance live webinar. It was previous hour here. I know they announced it for us on that. We appreciate that. And man, those webinars are awesome. I actually watched the full hour last week on the HDS live units, and Jeremiah, man, he explained a lot of great stuff. Cheryl Spencer, that we all work with and we all know and love at Lowrance, she has taught me a lot, and I know a good bit of stuff from but it changes, and they add more technology year after year. So these webinars, I actually learned a little bit more last week. And then tonight, the TI units, that's what Laker runs, the elite TI units. He runs those on his boat. And I know he said it was awesome. He learned some new tricks tonight too on there. So anybody that has Lowrance, I tell you can't beat a free 1 hour live webinar, watch live, or you can go back and watch it on demand on Lowrance, on the website, on the Facebook page for Lowrance, and check it all out. It'll teach you a lot to help you maximize how to use your units.
Yeah, there's a lot of capability in those things now, and if you don't not up to date on them, you're not going to get near the capability out of them. So I saw mention that you went in and did a little webinar yourself. This is your your Instagram page. If anybody wants to go check it out, Randy has got the Lowrance Ghost trolling motor. We're going to talk about that in the Lowrance Ghost story here, but you've actually linked your trolling motor up to your HDS units, right?
I did, and I was pretty proud of myself that I actually did it without any help. I didn't know I could do it that easily just through my own Wi-Fi in the garage. And I have to shout out my buddy Stuart Lucas Jr. You think you know Stuart Lucas? He's one of the ones helping with the C-map, mapping a lot of the lakes, and he's a young guy, so I know he knew the technology. I texted him. I said, "How can I load this up easily without having to do it through the computer?" And he said, "Just turn the Wi-Fi on and go with it." Man, I did, and I put it on my Instagram story. Anybody can go right on the top of the Instagram page, and I'll show you right here. You've got it pulled up, but I'll show you on the Instagram right here on my home page right here, the highlight page. Yeah, right there. If you look on, which way is the camera?
It's always
the little highlights right up here, and it'll say Lowrance. I'm looking backwards, but right up here it's a Lowrance update. It'll say Lowrance right there. Click that, and I went through each step of how to actually do it, and I did it, and then I linked up. I mean, it's amazing. The 20.0 update not only made the Lowrance HDS unit even better with more features, but then it just basically opened it up to a whole new world of communicating. And now, so the Ghost trolling motor now communicates through the Lowrance graph, where you can hit your trail. You can run a waypoint to waypoint on it automatically with doing it right there on the screen. You can, if you're like a high school boat captain like I do with my boys with Oakley, which we didn't get to do it much this year now, but you go right on there, and I can sit there in my seat without a remote control even, and just hit anchor mode and stay in one spot. I can move it around while he's fishing. It's really cool. And so you got all that added. Plus, I've got the Mercury vessel view, and the Mercury vessel view connects up, and that vessel view pops right up, and you got a Mercury highlight on your screen, which I don't show it on here right here now on that, but it show then you can tap that and look at all your log, all your information right off your computer of your Mercury engine, and that's really cool. So just like being at the dealer and they plug it up to the ECU box and look at the RPMs, gas, everything you got. You can look at it right on your Lowrance screen through there, and the power pole and the power pole charge unit. I've got a new charger from Power Pole. All that links right up through the same Bluetooth wireless technology, all right into the Lowrance. So Lowrance work with their own Ghost trolling motor. They work with Mercury, and they work with Power Pole to make this one fishing system. The whole boat from bow to stern kind of communicates now, and I mean, it is really cool. And it's really cool to me because I'm not as young as a lot of those guys. I still feel like I am. I'm 46, but I still love technology, and I love how things are made easier if you just take the time to learn it. I don't ever want to be one of these old guys that's hard-headed, don't want to change and don't want to learn all that stuff. I'm eager to learn new stuff all the time. So this communication that Lowrance has done for the whole boat now, it is unbelievable.
One really cool thing to add there is the bullseye from ANGLR, this little on my hat right here. This is actually works through Wi-Fi as well and can connect to those to any Lowrance graph that has Wi-Fi. So HDS Live, HDS Gen 3s, the Carbon, the Elite TI, and the TI2, you can actually connect waypoint bullseye without even touching the screen. So that's pretty neat. And
yeah, I'm anxious to try that. I want some of them.
Yeah, we'll have to hook you up.
Yeah,
we'll get into the apps more too here in a little while, where we can show you kind of some of the functionality of it. But I think once you see that, I know as much as you like to prepare for a tournament, kind of scout around and look, it's a really neat way to go in and build out a map before you even go to the lake and drop waypoints and pattern points is what we like to call them a lot of times. But anyway, we'll get into that here in a little while. But that's pretty interesting. What all do you like about that? What's the thing you've been most impressed by with the Ghost trolling motor so far? A lot of guys haven't had the chance to get on the water and try it out for themselves. So what's the thing that you are the most impressed by so far?
Well, I'll tell you several, but in a nutshell, the most impressive part to me is the overall 3.5 years that they spent, the research and the perfection, and the excellence they went to design and make this trolling motor be perfect right out of the box, brand new. It didn't have any bugs to work through or anything. It's the first time. Usually everybody on every pro tour forever, when somebody comes out and says, hey, we got this new product, we want you to run it, and you're gonna put your whole season on the line by putting something new on your boat that, and used to, you couldn't do that because things didn't work that great at the beginning, and you always had to work the bugs out. But I talked to so many of them there. Cheryl told us that, and Jeremiah and Lucas Stewart, the head engineer there. My kudos to those guys, because they didn't leave any stone unturned to make it perfection. I mean, everything on it. The first thing that I love the most, I got to run it last year on the MLF Cup events, because we had them on the Cup boats that are on TV now on Outdoor Channel, but they were filmed last year. So I ran it at the last Cup event in October, and I was so impressed with, and am now, the steering, not having a true cable steering system in there, so it doesn't have a steering cable to brake. And that was one thing with the Ultrex running that last year and year before, and seeing other guys run it. It was a great product, but it still has a steering cable that would break usually, honestly, it'd break every 6 months if you used it a lot. And it would let you down in a tournament. You have to come in and get it fixed. I saw it day after day with a lot of guys, and that's just the way that kind of, steering cable stuff is. But this doesn't have a steering cable. It's got a cable connected to the foot pedal, and it looks like it's a steering cable, and it feels like it, but it's not one there. It's just a housing for the wiring and the technical wiring to go through there to it. But it gives you that same feeling, even though it's no cable there. You feel that same feeling of a steer, and you got total smooth control of the pedal and of the motor, lower unit turning smoothly, and you can spin it quick. You can get it caught up in grass, and you can spin it out easily, turn it like you need to without the fear of the trolling motor cable breaking. So that's one big thing. The other thing, when you pull it out of the water, it's got a self adjuster, so it'll turn that lower unit and put it in the right position to be laid down on the bow of your boat. So you don't have to turn it. You don't have to worry about hitting your prop or breaking anything or scratching your boat. That's one other thing. The other thing, the obvious part of the name of the Ghost, is because it's super quiet. And it really is quiet. And every time I'm running it, if I'm not running it on high, it's still so many times that I'll have to look to see if I see the light on the head to know it's working, because I go slow and on it, I don't hear any sound, and sometimes you just think it's not working, and then you look and you see the light on the head, and you look beside you and you notice you are moving, but you don't really feel it or hear it. So quietness is 100% key. But I was really impressed. I was at Eufaula and Okeechobee, in this season, both places we were in some really bad, nasty gator grass and wiry grass. I went through everything you could go through with it, and I'm telling you what, it goes through that stuff like a piece of cake, and it's got so much more torque, and that brain in it tells it to give it more power when it feels a load in the grass, so it doesn't bog down in the grass easy like, you know, traditional trolling motors did. It'll actually give itself more power to boost through that grass. And when I want to get out of a flat, and like way back in a flat at Okeechobee, and you're a mile back in this flat and it's 1.5 feet deep, you can't idle your big motor as fast as that trolling motor will go. It'll go right at 5 miles an hour on my GPS on high. And that was real impressive, saves a lot of time. So everything about it, I hadn't had 1 second's problem with it at all. And I hadn't seen any of the other guys that are running to have any problems with them. So I'm telling you, you're safe to buy that motor, and it's worth the money. And you definitely want to utilize Lowrance electronics with it, so you get that full total boat control system there.
Well, I got a question for you about that from one of the viewers, Corey, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. Corey T. Shaye wants to know, when you hook up the Ghost, do you need the NEMA 2000 to make the spotlight system work when you locks you on?
I don't think so, and I'm not a technical guy, Corey. You might want to, you know, if somebody from Lowrance happens to be watching us tonight, y'all pipe in here and answer that for 100% to make sure. But I don't think so, because when I know you don't have to. Wait a minute, what's it say? When it goes, do you need NEMA to make? No, I definitely know that. You don't need anything. You don't even have to have a Lowrance graph on your boat to make the anchor lock work. Yeah, so definitely, Corey, you don't need anything that. It automatically works with that anchor button, and in buttons that are on the foot pedal. You can program them for your power poles or for your waypoints on your screen, or you can do a lot of that through that network system as well.
If you do link it to your graph, though, you can, I believe you can follow like topo lines with it, or hit like a waypoint and it'll take you to that waypoint, stuff like that, if you connect them.
Yeah, that's right.
That's pretty amazing.
It is.
All right. Well, let's see if we got any other questions here. If we don't have any questions, we need you guys. Y'all shoot us some questions over, and we'll keep rolling with the show in the meantime. So one thing I want to talk to you about is a Mercury Moment. That's a little segment we like to do on the show, where talk about some time where your Mercury motor didn't let you down. And we have a good one for this segment. It's I believe
we're gonna go way back in the archives.
Yeah, year 2000, I believe.
Let's go.
Tell me about
20 years.
Yeah, tell me that time a 23-year-old Randy Howell went out there and did some silly stuff he probably should have done, but it worked out pretty good.
Oh man, yeah, that was funny. I mean, you were talking about that last night. I've got so many great Mercury moments because you know, for 27, 28 years that I've been doing this right out of high school. I've run Mercury my whole life, and everywhere, and I've never had it let me down to a point anywhere that it cost me, you know, anything major in my whole career. So that's a miracle to say that, for the testament of that. But that one was probably the one that came to my mind the first, because we were in FLW. I fished FLW and bass for all those early years. We were at Pascagoula River. If anybody's watching tonight or watching this on demand later, if you ever fished, it was year 2000 FLW tour was at Pascagoula River, Mississippi. I think it was maybe the only time we ever fished it, maybe 1 year. And that was such a really tough fishery. Nobody was catching a lot of fish. And I had some buddies. I had fished at New Orleans down there from the Classic a few times. In '99, I'd been there right before it, and I'd done well down there in Venice. So, and it was actually not the Classic. It was it was a Bassmaster Top 100 or something back then. So I wanted to go over there to Venice. I said, well, shoot. I looked on the map. My Lowrance back then, I don't know which Lowrance it was. It was probably the X27C or something, I think. But I looked across that map and I could see it, and it was just a straight line there. And I'm like, well, what I need to worry about that? If I can get there and I can catch fish quick, you know, I'll just make that run. So I drove over there and practiced on the truck, launched over there, and went in. I found them. They were loaded in these two little ditches, pipeline ditches, and so I got Robin to put me in over there, and she went back, and I said, well, I'm going to come back by boat and find my way back in practice. So I got over there and caught them, knew where they were, filled it up with gas there in the wagon wheel in Venice, and I hit the Gulf and had a, you know, light breeze. And back then I was running a Triton, a 22-foot Triton, a TR22 with a Mercury Optimax, and it was one of the early years of Optimax that just kind of come out in 2000, and I hit the Gulf and I took off running over there, buddy, and I ran and ran and ran, and it was like 2 hours almost. I mean, a long way. It was 120 something miles straight line, and it wasn't real rough. So yeah, maybe you can pull it up on the angler map there and we can see it. So I come in over there. So I said, well, we're going to do it. So I told my partner next day, we're going to make this run. Just bring you some, clothes. Supposed to be foggy, might be raining or whatever. So we take off the next morning, and I set out to run over there. And as soon as we hit the Gulf, I wish I could point at that and touch it. You could see it. You're doing that, yeah. Yeah, right where Pascagoula River comes out. Right as we got out of Biloxi and Pascagoula right there, hit that Gulf, it was solid fog, and you couldn't see. And if any other anglers watching this, man, I'll tell you, they'll never forget it. It was solid fog, and my GPS is all I had. And I had made me a trail across there. Yeah, you're laughing. And I had me a trail across there, and I was like, well, I got this, At least it ain't rough, So I was running 50 mile an hour, and I could barely see about a mile in front of me. So you'd be running along, and all of a sudden you'd see an oil platform, boom, and it would be just far enough in front of you that you could see it. It wasn't unsafe to be running. It just was, you could see, but you couldn't see nothing but fog. And I run all the way across there, and we get out there. I didn't tell you this part of the story last night. I saved this for tonight. We get 75 miles out, and right in the middle of nowhere out there, and all my power went out in my boat.
Oh my gosh!
And everything quit. And my motor was running, but my GPS went off. Everything in the power, the electronic part went out in the dash. And I'm like, oh my gosh! So we stop, and I get under the dash, and I'm fooling with stuff, trying to figure out breakers. And the cell phone service back there wasn't great. And this was a miracle of God here too. I forgot, I left this out. The phone didn't even hardly work out there. And I get my phone, I got no service. And all of a sudden, one bar pops up, and I hit it, and I called Triton Boats. And back then, Earl Bentz was the early years with me with Triton, and I asked for Rourke Summerford. He was the engineer for Triton back then. I said, can you get Rourke on the phone? So he gets on the phone. I say, Rourke, I'm in a tournament at FLW. I'm on the middle of the Gulf trying to run over to Louisiana. He said, you're where? I said, I'm in the middle of, he said, what in the world are you doing in the middle of the Gulf? I said, I'm trying to get over here to Venice. I said, don't worry about it. Just tell me what to do to get my power back on. He said, oh man, go under the dash, and there's one big plug that plugs into the brain under there. And if you see, make sure that pin's in good. So boom, the phone cuts off. No more service. I can't call back, won't go through. So I get under there. Finally, sure enough, that little pin was popped out. I popped it in, power came back. My partner had gotten seasick because it was foggy and you was disoriented, you couldn't see. And we got back running. I took off, got over there, gassed the boat up. I ran in that canal. Bam, 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 bam. I caught like 13 or 14 pounds, I think. And he called his limit in 50 minutes. I said, all right, let's go. We take off. We gas it all the way back up again. We hit that Gulf and run for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I get back in and did the same thing next day, except the next day it wasn't any fog or any problem. I ran over there again, and I catch them, and I lead the tournament. So I'm leading after 2 days, and I'm coming off stage, and the Coast Guard guys were out there, and you can see in my picture, I'm a little skinny kid that looked like I was about 15 when I see them pictures. And especially if you show them the one on stage in the Kellogg shirt, that was even worse.
Yeah.
But when I made the cut, so in the FLW days, you had to change out of your boat to the Ranger boat. Back then, it was a 518 with a 200 Evinrude on it. And the gas tank was only I think it was like 2 gallon tanks maybe. And in that Triton, I had a 56-gallon tank on it, and I was having to almost use it all to get there. So I knew I couldn't make it back on that boat. So I chickened out and didn't try it because I didn't want to run out, because the Coast Guard guy said, young man, do you know how dangerous that run is you're making every day? And I said, yeah, I guess it would be dangerous if it was rough. He said, we've rescued more boats, and there's been a lot of people dying behind the Chandelier Islands that you're running by. He said, that water's 6 to 10 feet deep for 20 or 30 miles there. And if you get a 15-mile-an-hour breeze, the waves get so bad there that you hit the bottom, you bottom out on the waves, and you get swamped and you sink. And I said, wow, really? I said, I never thought of that. He said, so anyway, he scared me. Plus, I knew I couldn't go back on the boat for the gas, so I didn't go back. And that's a disappointment, because, man, I really feel like I could have won that tournament, because I caught him. I only fished like an hour and a half in 2 days and led the tournament. And never got to go back. So that's one of them stories. my Mercury didn't let me down. I got there, got back, and I just wonder what would have been if I could have used my boat the whole time and kept going all the way back. I might could have won it, but it
Yeah.
is what it is. That's the story. That's the Mercury moment for the day.
Yeah, that's a Mercury moment right there. That's glad you made it past 23 because that would have been
Yeah.
things I would have tried at 23 too. But I've already seen that. I'm too smart and
I,
sophisticated
I,
anyway.
I tell you, I like to think that at 40, I'm 46 now. I like to think I'm a little smarter than I was by then. But I tell you, if I felt like I could go catch them real easy, like I did then, I'd probably do it again.
Would have made the run. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, so why not?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's take some questions from the crowd here. So let's see. We can put up here on the screen. See if we can. Is Randy running lithiums with the Ghost? Has he noticed
No,
how little?
I'm not. No, I'm not running lithiums. I run Odyssey batteries. They're big. They're big, heavy duty. About 80 pounds a piece. And I've got 4 of the big 31s in my boat, and they're just always so dependable. They're heavy, but they never let me down. They're very dependable, and especially running the trolling motor hard all day through grass and all that. I've still never quite, looked in much to the lithium. I like the weight factor of lithium being lighter, so you can go faster. That's the part I do like about it. But I still, I've just never really gotten comfortable yet to change over. I think what I've got right now works good, so that's why I've stuck with the Odysseys.
What about does Lowrance call it spot lock as well? I mean, what do they call the
It's anchor mode
anchor
just
mode
anchor mode.
loud? Like the Ultrex, it can be a little loud, especially when it tries to go fast on the spot lock.
No, it's that. Oh, I see the question is the spotlight loud above the waterline. Yeah, no, it's really quiet, man. You don't even hear it. That's why when it's in anchor mode in the waves, sometimes I, I have to look at it a couple times to make sure it's working and that I'm not drifting back because you can't hear it. It's real. It cuts the power up and down real lightly as it's moving. And I think as it starts to feel itself come out of the water, it kind of cuts the power down quickly and then back up. It pulses with it, and that's that brain in that thing that does the same, power saver mode, like for grass and stuff. So it kicks the power in when you need it, and shrinks it down when you don't.
Dana Watkins made a good point, and it's pretty interesting this day and age and what we're getting into now with everything. But made in America, they put that plant in. They make everything down to their own screw. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm telling you that I love it up there in Fond du Lac. We were there last year for the Bass Pro Tour event at Winnebago, and we had it scheduled to be there again this year. And I don't know right now because all our schedule is totally off right now. Nobody knows what we're doing. We won't know until they open the world back up here. Hopefully another week or two, we'll get a schedule. And I'm hoping we get to be back up there in Wisconsin. But it's a great place, and Fond du Lac is great. I definitely don't want to be there a little bit too early for me. I like it in the summer because it's beautiful up there in the summer. And I'm telling you what they did at Mercury to make this new this new 4-stroke that we're running this Pro Access. It's amazing how awesome and quiet that motor is, how much power and torque it's got, and speed, and that sound. It just sounds good, looks good. I mean, they did a great job with that whole system. And that's another thing that's been a brand new product last year for all of us, not this year, but last year. And again, another brand new product that came right out of the box, without any bugs to work out. And that's impressive. That just says a lot about technology these days.
Yeah, I noticed because I had one of those for a little while too last year, and then I had to get rid of the boat. It was a little pricier than I could afford to keep, but I bought a Ranger one of them, and that motor was phenomenal. And that's one of the things too that I used to worry about. When power poles first came out, I was scared to get them as much as I wanted them because you're gonna have problems those first couple of years. Well, as I don't know if it's weird because like competition, it seems like it would drive companies to try to put something out faster, but it's almost like they know that if they burn you, you're not going to come back at this point. There's too many options out there. So
yeah,
I don't remember the exact number. Somebody told me that went to the Mercury plant, but that they tested that. They turned one of them things on and let it run for like hours and hours and hours. I mean, days and days.
Yeah, they did. They did. They ran them in tests, and we went down. We were the first. It was a group of anglers that got invited to go to the Lake X test facility, which is the secret place that nobody's ever gotten to go. And it was fun to get to go there the year before that engine was released, and we couldn't say anything about it for forever, which was hard for me because I have a hard time keeping good stuff quiet. And I got to run it on Lake X out there that day, and I was like, man, that they talked about in their meetings. I mean, like it was like thousands of hours that those motors ran nonstop. They never cut them off. They put fuel in them in the test facilities and leave them running constantly, leave them running wide open to be able to simulate what bass fishermen do, because bass fishermen stop and idle and they run wide open. That's what we do. You don't go much in between most of the time. That's why a lot of motors in the old days, they test them at 3,500 RPMs, and that's not an accurate testing for people like us that run hard. So they test these 4-strokes wide open, and they've done good. I hadn't seen, used to, you could tell at our tournaments by looking at the service trailer. Mercury has the service trailer at all the tournaments to support all the anglers, and if you see them lined up working on a motor, you always knew. You know, in the early days of the Optimaxes, 20 years ago, the first couple of years, Optimax had some bugs to work out. So you see a lot of boats and trucks over there getting fixed. But now, Mercury guys like the Maytag guy. He's over there, he's over there giving a hand to everybody else that needs help. They don't have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, that's a fact about testing them. You want them about like I am. It's a trimmer out, let her eat situation. You gonna go and go. So
yeah.
Somebody asked here what's the top end with that 250 on your Triton?
On mine, I run the 21 TRX boat, which we're doing, and also it's a good point to bring up. We're giving that boat away November again for King's Home. This will be the 10th year. Maybe we can mention that again here in a minute. But that boat right now, if it's loaded down really heavy, Corey, it runs about 72. And that's loaded really heavy. Now, if I get out there on the days I'm practicing by myself and my gas gets down to half a tank, I can run 75, 76 pretty easy. So it depends on how it's weighted, but it runs really good. And I'm running a 25 Fury 3 blade, and that 25 only turns 5,600 RPMs or so, but it still runs faster than say a 23 Fury that turns 6,000. It doesn't run as fast, but so that 25 actually runs a little bit faster.
Yeah, you answered Matthew's question as I was putting it up there. He's wanting to know what prop you use, and so that's
the 25 Fury definitely in my regular sea level altitude, but like he's saying there, fishing Utah and Idaho a lot, you definitely got to go down in your pitch when you're at those lakes. Like out there on my boat, if I went with my same setup that I have now to your area, I'd probably go down to the 23 Fury, which I had mentioned before, just because it's going to spin a little better and the motor is going to be choked down a little bit more because of that high altitude. And it would probably do better. Because I remember when we went to, that's a good memory there. I remember when we went to Clear Lake years ago. It used to make me mad to go to Clear Lake because every time it was so many years apart, and I'd forget every time that I needed a smaller prop, and I'd get there. And the first day of practice, everybody'd be over at the service trailer asking the Mercury guy to check their motor because everybody had slowed down 5 miles an hour and 300 RPMs, and it's because of that high altitude there at Clear Lake. So it'll drive you nuts. You definitely got to have a smaller prop for that.
Taught me something I didn't know. I had no idea that was even a thing. That's interesting.
And it's the same on the low altitude, man. You get down to the low altitude, like we'd leave Clear Lake in that year, and we go down to the Delta, California Delta, which was the absolute lowest altitude you could go, and it flips the spectrum and the motor goes faster than ever. That's the year I had that Mercury Fury wrap boat years ago, that Triton. It ran 81. I remember outrunning Greg Hackney that morning. We had like a bet. He said because he had just got a new Phoenix and he was gonna outrun me. He told me that morning, and so I told him I'd pass him before we got to the end of that canal out there, and we got after it, and he was flying, and it took me an extra couple miles to catch him, but I was running 81 when I went by him. That's like the fastest I've ever run in the tournament, because of that altitude was so great there. I love that.
That's wild. Well, we're going to jump out of the Q&A part here for a little while. Got some questions about techniques and gear and all. We're going to do some tips and tricks here in a little while, so when we're in that, we'll come back to some of those questions, but I want to remind everybody we're on here with Randy Howell. This is Wishin I Was Fishin. I'm Shaye Baker. If you don't mind helping us out, hit the share button, start a watch party, help us get the word out. We've got a good show going. We've got probably another 20 or 30 minutes. We're going to hang out here. We're going to do Anglers Break Down Your Water for one guy that sent in requests. We got about 30 requests on my Instagram post. So that's pretty cool. We put up a post every Wednesday or Thursday for the show to get a random lake or river or any kind of body of water to break down. So we're going to do that here in a little while. And then, like I said, we'll do some tips and tricks with Randy Howell. So get your questions in, and we'll come back to some of those questions in a little while. In the meantime, let's do that.
Time's running down too, man. I already talked a lot. It's 7:40 already, man.
Yeah, you rocking.
Hurry up, don't we?
Yeah, you rocking and rolling. We're going to jump into the Anglers Break Down Your Water, and we're going with Lake Mead, brought to us by Corey Williams. And you can tell this part of the country I do not frequent. Look at this. Look how barren everything is.
I know. I've been there, man. I know what that looks like. That angler mapping deal is really cool there. I was impressed. That's the first time yesterday that I really looked at it good when you and I were on here looking. And, man, I got to use that myself because it's real impressive how you can zoom in and see all this stuff so easily and be able to log stuff and keep up with, waypoints and trails and fishing locations and, all the stuff that it logs for you. But I'm looking at that map now. So what are we trying to do here by looking at this map?
Basically, we want to break down the fishery for Corey Williams and all the other viewers and just kind of show them some things to look for. It doesn't necessarily have to be where you caught big ones in the past. A lot of times we try to pick lakes that neither I nor you have ever been to, or the guests. But in this situation, I said, man, that's a pretty wild looking fishery compared to everything I've ever fished.
Yeah, I've only been there one time maybe. I think I fished there one time, and I believe in 1999. I still remember it because it was one of the roughest water days I've ever fished in that day, and I still remember that. So I think it was 99 because I was chasing Van Dam for Angler of the Year points. He was leading, and I was in second, and that was getting down to it was like just a couple tournaments left, and he continued to lead after that. He did good there, and I don't remember what I did. I think I might have got a check, but I didn't do so great. And I stayed right in contention. Ended up third or fifth for the year, and he ended up winning Angler of the Year that year, I think.
Well, we're right here at the 1st of May, last day of April. So what would you think out there right now? What would be the first thing you go and look for them? Is a spawn over with, you think, out there? Or?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question about the climate this time of year. I've never heard many people talk about the end of April out there, if it's hot or if it's still cold or if it's like it is here. But I kind of think it would be spawning, because those lakes like me that are so clear, it'll be fish spawning 3 months in a row out there, probably just different waves of fish. So I think but what I remember from being out there years ago, the wind blows really bad. So that's one thing you could learn by using that map on the angler map here is to really research your wind directions when you go out there to fish, and you want to make sure that you're in those protected pockets out of the wind and get back into them little hollows that run way back. You see a lot of them on that lake, and you can kind of get somewhere to block that wind. And it's always good to have a little bit of breeze, a little ripple on the water to break that surface up in that clarity so you can still catch them. But if you're bedding, I love sight fishing and bed fishing, and I know that's Yamamoto Cinco land out there, which about everywhere we go in the spring is Cinco land. But that is a great place to throw that wacky Cinco in that clear water, and probably on some light line, probably on a Brent Ayler drop shot Tatula Elite rod, and twitch that thing slow and easy down there, and 8-10 foot deep, and you probably catch some fish.
One thing I noticed, and it may be complete bogusness, but this is what's cool about looking at satellite imagery. I mean, we've all done this with Google and stuff before, but now we have the capability to drop waypoints inside the ANGLR app. But looking at some of these ditches and drains and stuff, they don't look like they have as much vegetation, which to me indicates they probably don't have as much water running down them regularly, where these do. So maybe like little runoffs, if there ever is a little trickle coming in, it's going to be in some of these where there's more of this greenery.
Mm-hmm.
That might be something to look at that you can kind of pick up on from here. Like I said,
yeah, that looks good.
Protected pockets. It doesn't seem to be a lot of cover on Mead. I've never been there, but
yeah, that's the only. I remember that's the first place and probably the only place I've ever fished cactus plants in the water. They were like cactus plants underwater, and I actually caught fish around them. And I don't know what a bass would want to get around a cactus for, and poke itself like that. But they weren't scared of the hooks there because they're used to getting poked, I guess. So I caught them around cactus plants in those pockets a little bit way back in those little runoffs. And good thing if you ever get, I know a little thing like you say on the map there, you can run a pattern on those clear water lakes like that by going back in those little hollows. I'm pointing at it like you can see me. I know you can't see me pointing on the map, but the back of those hollows and drains, and when you got runoff coming in from rain like you just mentioned a while ago, I know like that's a big deal on all the central Ozark lakes, and even Smith Lake here in Alabama. You get in these places where that water runs in and that stained rainwater hits that clear water, and those bass always pull in there and feed. So that's always a good pattern, and you can find that pattern on this ANGLR map a lot easier. And when you match that up with your Lowrance, and you can even do on the Lowrance live system, like we've got in our boats now, you can use that to pull that ANGLR map up on a split screen, like on my 16 HDS 16 live Lowrance. I can have 6 screens up at one time, 6 windows, but I can take and watch, you can watch YouTube videos, you can watch live, MLF live, or anything you want to watch. So you could pull that ANGLR map up, put it side by side with your C map on your Lowrance, and have the kind of like the website of the real time type map mixed with the contours of a C map. And I think that'd be an amazing combination to be able to find stuff faster and do the research quicker.
Well, it's really cool too. Like for a guy that's got a bunch of tournaments, all over the country, whatever, you can go in the off season with the app and build out these maps and stuff, and then you can actually export from the ANGLR app your waypoints into your Lowrance too, and they'll actually come. You can move them over into the Lowrance, so and vice versa if you want to bring them out of the Lowrance into the ANGLR app. So it gives you a lot of opportunity to do the research and the background work before the events. But let's move around a little bit on. So what do you? I saw where Matthew. Let's see where he is here. Matthew Anderson said Lake Mead actually has a lot of sunken fish structure. Did you see much of that back? I mean, it was 20 years ago when you were there. So
yeah, it was. I don't remember. I don't remember much of that because I remember back, 20 years ago, our electronics were still dinosaurs back then. So we didn't have. I don't even know if we had the GPS on the boat then. I don't even know. So that's so long ago. I can't remember if we had to. It had to have been a GPS. It was just probably like the old, just a straight GPS without the mapping system, I imagine. So we didn't have a lot of. And I wasn't real old. I didn't know how to read maps real good back then. I just went fishing and and winged it and thought I fished everything that looked good. And I didn't do good enough. But I remember the wind blew so bad I threw a spinnerbait, and I still remember. I think I caught most of my fish on a hog collar spinnerbait.
were you fishing that around those cactuses too, or you fishing?
Yeah, back in them long hollows, I caught them because them pockets would just wind and wind back and go back into the mountain, into the hills, and you just throw that spinnerbait parallel down those banks and slow roll it, and you'd roll over and bump into those spiny cactus bushes, and you'd catch a fish when you'd come by them a lot, And I still don't remember why, and that's 20 years ago. I don't know why that even stands out in my mind, but I still remember that.
I had never been on a cactus bite. I'm pretty sure a cactus.
Yeah, it might have been unusual. It may not even normally work. It might have just been what worked that day. You never know.
Yeah. Well, that's a little. I wonder. I'm sure they have shad. I would imagine. So a shad spawn maybe would be about right. Seems like that's what we talk about every week. But I would go on Lake Mead a lot for you. It's a pretty massive fishery. It looks like.
I wish we could have our Amart on here now. He could talk for the next hour on what this lake looks like. He's got a lot of history on this. He knows it well, but I don't know very much about it. I know it looks good on that map, but it can be a tough fishery from what most people tell you.
We would start the angler break down your water segment, and Aaron would be talking about a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. 57 minutes later, we would not have talked anything about Lake Mead. It's the thing I love the most about the guy.
Yeah,
and he's doing pretty good. Best I can tell. And
he went fishing today. I saw Robin told me a while ago before I got on with you that she saw a video. He actually went fishing today. Man, you can't keep a good man down. He's got a lot of great people praying for him everywhere, and his faith is strong. And we're praying he's gonna get through this thing. And I think he's got some treatments of some type ahead, but I think he's definitely going to survive it and be healed from it. So we keep praying for him. And then also Shaw, I know Shaw Grigsby went home, I think yesterday or this morning or yesterday, whenever I saw that video. Yeah, this morning he had a video, and Shaw, I texted him and he texted me back and said, thanks for all the prayers. He was doing great. And I think he's in good shape. So can't wait to hear his story. You need to get him on here real soon, because Shaw has got an amazing testimony I hadn't heard yet. I remember he just mentioned he can't wait to talk about it and tell people how he found out about this, this cancer scare that he just had, and how it came about. So I'm anxious to hear that story.
Yeah. For those of y'all that don't know, yeah, Shaw Grigsby had, from what I saw in the video, surgery and got out of the hospital. I think he was in the hospital for a couple of days, and they went ahead and got him out of there, probably faster than they normally would have, but everything was checked out and got everything, and they don't need chemo, radiation, or anything for it. And then Aaron Martin's had 2 brain surgeries in the last week and a half or so, if you hadn't heard about that, or maybe 2 weeks now. And he's doing really well. And one Aaron story I'll tell real quick before we move on. I had just started working with Bass, and I was at the Classic, and Steve Bowman over there had asked me to go shoot a bunch of little 1-minute videos. And I was like, all right, cool. So I was running around, and, we were at the media day, and there was, people lined up at every boat. So I just jump on whoever wasn't talking to somebody. And I happened to hit a little gap with Aaron where I could run up to him. I was like, hey, man. He's like, hey. I said, I'm Shaye Baker. I want to shoot a little video with you right quick for Bass. If that's all right. I said, yeah. I said, I just need like a minute. That's all I need. Just whatever you want to talk about. He's like, all right, cool. So 7.5 minutes later, I finally just hit stop on the camera, and he hadn't taken a breath, and no coherent 60 seconds in any of that. I had nothing to use, but I was just like, all right, I appreciate it, man. I'm going to move on. That's the ramblingest son of a gun I've ever met in my life. But
no, he's awesome, man. He's amazing, all the stuff he knows, and he just that mind never stops going, man. So I know he loves to fish more than anybody I know. I tell you what, if I'd have had brain surgery 3 to 4 days ago, I wouldn't be worried about going fishing right now. I can promise you that. He's amazing. He was even fishing like 3 days after the first surgery, and this second one was real in depth. And he even went home 27 hours. I talked to him the other day. And when I talked to him, he was texting me back and forth, and he said that he was 27 hours and he was back home after a major brain surgery, and that's just a miracle, And then I got a lot of friends down there, and Pastor Tyler Vineyard to go to Aaron's, and he was there with prayed for him there before he went into surgery, and he said that he knew the doctor, and the doctor told him it was nothing short of a miracle what had happened there in that surgery with Aaron. So that's really great to hear.
Yeah, I know to start with that they didn't even want to do that second surgery. It was going to be pretty risky, and that gave them a better chance of survival from what I heard. So they went ahead and did it.
Yeah.
But wild stuff that somebody's smart enough and talented enough to go inside your brain and move stuff around and take care of that. It's amazing.
Yeah, it sure is. Great doctors, man. It's a miracle. I'm sure glad it's people that are gifted to do that stuff, because, man, I sure couldn't. I couldn't do it. Whew. Just keep him in your prayers, and appreciate everybody thinking about it and praying for him and all that. And say, hey, I see these comments and stuff are starting to pop up over here. I finally got my screen now where I'm seeing people's name and stuff. I was not seeing that at the beginning, but now I'm seeing that. Say, shout, hey to my mom. She's on here watching tonight. And Al Odom, Fishers of Men buddy, he's got a question about the herring spawn on Lake Murray.
Mm-hmm.
And that herring spawn, top water time, that walking boss, that can kind of lead me into my top water segment when you were going to talk about too. And this is time that probably Lake Murray and all those Carolina lakes are getting ready to get right for that herring spawn, that top water schooling bite. I mean, it happens usually the end of, what is it, usually the end of April. It starts early, and then May is the main month. I think it happens really good. And that's when that herring spawn on those big flat points and sandbars and clay bars and places with buoys that run way out. That's when you get on that bite really good.
What all that you got to talk to us about? What you got there to work with?
Yeah, let me show you this. I'll show you my setup right here. This is what we were just on the Facebook Live with Major League Fishing a couple weeks ago, and I still got this bait tied on. I hadn't even went fishing hardly since then. But this is a walking boss, a Livingston walking boss, and we help designed this to be one of the easiest, longest casting walking baits and the easiest bait. So if you struggle to walk the dog like with a Zara Spook type bait, this bait has a lot of weight and balance in the rear end of it. So it sits up like this, and it walks easier than any bait out here, and it casts along really far. And it's got the shad sound in it. That's electronic bait fish sound. You probably can't hear it on here because we don't have a real good mic on here. But the setup on this, to throw top water with for this time of the year and the rest of the year too, brings me into Daiwa here. See this particular reel, you hear a lot of us talking about our reels and rods and all that, but Daiwa has a patent on this. Watch this click. When I open that up, you see that T-wing right there. That's what pops open. And when that thing pops open, let me get my other hand on it right here, and it closes. You see that? That takes the friction off of that line and allows that line to fly free, and it gives you a longer cast. That spool can roll a lot faster with no friction on the line, and that's why everybody talks about their reels and everybody says they're the greatest, and everybody's reels are good reels, but this Daiwa stands out because that right there, that one feature alone, the T-wing system. Plus, this is the Tatula Elite bait cast reel, and it's an elite long cast. It's made for long casting, so this reel actually casts further than anyone I've ever fished with, and that's the God's honest truth. You can sling this thing a mile. It's only 6.7 ounces. It's very lightweight, and it's got a 90 millimeter handle over here on it, and it's got the gearing is set up with I use it with an 8.1 retrieve for the top water bait. You definitely want that super fast retrieve for top water, and I use 70 pound or 65 pound Daiwa J braid Grand or Daiwa Samurai braid. And then the rod here that I've got it on, I'm trying to get it where you can see it. That's my Randy Howell Signature Series. It says right on there, big top water, swim bait, and bladed jig. That rod is a 7'4" medium heavy, and it's a rod that you can really do a lot of stuff with, but you can sling a top water bait a mile. You can throw your chatterbaits a long ways. You can fish all your lunker lure swim bait heads with your little Yamamoto swim baits or stuff like that. You can do a lot with this bait, this rod, and it's got a shorter handle. See this handle? This is about a 8.5, right at 8.5 to 9 inch handle versus like a 10.5 inch handle on most 7.4 rods. And that's so you can work top water and work reaction baits a lot faster with it. So it's a perfect setup. So when you see our name on all of these Tatula Elite rods, all the pros' names, Ishman Rowe, Cody Meyer, Brent Ayler, all the guys, their rods were designed by them, just like mine by me, for that specific set of techniques. And it makes it easy to locate and find this rod. I think I saw some of these on BassPro.com, just started drop shipping these just a couple weeks ago too. But this whole setup right here for all around making long casts with baits, I mean, you can't beat this Tatula Elite setup, rod, reel, line, and then the Livingston walking balls here, top water bait.
One question, you talked about that T-wing. Brian Higgins asked, can you tell if the T-wing helps on a flipping rod?
Yeah, definitely it does. On the Brian, they've got this same reel with the big handle. It's called the Tatula Pitch and Flip. It's the Tatula Elite Pitch and Flip, and it's got a 100 millimeter handle with the big knobs on it, which I really love. It's the same reel with a little different gearing in it. It's got a shallower spool for flipping, and it's geared to be able to go real smooth for a slow trajectory into the water without splashing, and you can really skip good with it. And that T-wing definitely just totally takes that friction off the line and lets you control the reel with your thumb. And that's what you want. You want to be able to control that reel with your thumb, so you can enter the water quietly. You can skip. You can do whatever you want. And these reels, all these Tatula reels, they have a zero adjuster on them right here, so you don't need to fool with that knob. That's one thing a lot of guys don't know. That knob, usually you loosen that knob on most reels to get your spool tension a little looser for casting, or tighter for less backlash. On these, you leave it alone. It's set right out of the box. You only use this 20 dial over here on the side. You got 20 magnetic numbers here, and you can dial it in just like you want for whatever technique you're using, and it works really good.
Jamie Bird asked, what gear ratios, and I know we talked about this a little bit, it's going to be one of the things we talk about tonight, what gear ratio you use for jigs and soft plastics? I guess like pitching soft plastics and jigs.
Yeah, that's given the same as I've got on here for this top water. I see that number on the side, 8.1. This one says Tatula Elite. But that 8-1 right here, all their tattoos are easy to see right on that side when it's laying on the deck of your Triton. You can see that it's the number there. And I use the 8-1 for all my top waters, my jigs, soft plastics, anything that I'm setting the hook on to cast and wind it back fast. I want a fast reel on. The only time I slow for the slower reels, I've got this same reel right here with my little Howler Junior crankbait and my cranking rod. And this, you see on here, that's a 7-1 reel. And I use that 7-1 retrieve on all my crankbaits and my a lot of my just my in between my jerk baits and stuff like that, my swim baits. But when I really want to slow down for the chatter bait and a spinner bait, that's when I'll use the 6-3 retrieve. So that's the 3 retrieves: 6-3, 7-1, and 8-1. That's the only 3 I use.
Got a question here on what is your favorite trailer for a bladed jig?
Favorite trailer for the bladed jig, man, that's easy. I wish I had it laying here, Dana, but it's the Yamamoto Seiko trailer. And Seiko is Japanese for little fish. That's what the word Seiko, if you ever wonder what that name is, it's little fish. And they designed, Brett Height actually designed that bait with Yamamoto and Ron Colby Yamamoto specifically for that jackhammer, that chatterbait, so it fits perfectly on that hook, and it has a good little swimming action, and it stays on the hook, and it doesn't tear up bad. And I used that, and then they made a new one this year that is called the Paddle Tail Seiko, and it's got the same fish body with a little pogey paddle style tail on it, and that slows the bait down. So when I want the chatterbait to wobble real slow and have a lot more resistance and come to me slower and drag more and pull on my rod more resistance, I'll use that paddle tail. And when I want it to come through the water smooth, just with some vibration, I use that regular Seiko, and that's the two baits that I rotate back and forth with. I see Robin Howell's watching me on here tonight too. She's ready to go catch her a fish. She says she's tired of me working on this garage. She's ready to go catch a fish.
Heard that. We got a lot of good questions, and I'm way up the list here. This one won't show up all on here, but I'll read it to you. It says, what do you suggest for a young angler to get involved more into bass tournament fishing? My son is waiting on his diploma and is getting more into the bass aspect. He's actually out on Bay of Green Bay tonight for walleye with an area walleye angler. So what do you suggest for the younger guys? I know you got 2 kids, or younger girls and guys. You got a couple boys yourself. What do you suggest for getting into the competitive side of bass fishing?
I tell you, the competitive side right now, is the tournaments in high school, middle school, high school, without a doubt, path to get in. And unfortunately, Corey, you might be in an area where your son may not have a fishing team at his school. And unfortunately, there's still a lot of schools that don't have fishing teams, but hopefully maybe you can help start one, or you can kind of get the ball rolling in your area if you get enough support and push on the administration at your school to say, encourage them, hey, we need to get a fishing team. And it's real easy to start a fishing team. You can, Major League Fishing you can go right on the website, and they've got information about how to get a fishing team started. I know Bassmaster does the same thing. They do a good job with their high school fishing as well as that FLW too. So you definitely need to get into high school fishing. My boys did it. Laker's 18. He's first year of college this year. I boat captained him for 4 years, and now Oakley's 14. And he was 8th grade this year, and I've been boat captaining him this year. And it's nothing better for the kids to learn how to compete. They can learn how to work together as a team with a teammate, and then they can learn all the conservation and all the stuff while there's a boat captain, a parent, or an adult of someone running the boat and helping teach them every step of the way. And that's the way to get into it.
Another thing that you guys do a lot of is kayak fishing, and I assume it's a great entry level kind of deal where you don't have to, you can get a kayak for a lot less than you get a bass boat, basically. So if you're a parent out there that doesn't have a bass boat and you want to get a couple of kayaks, that's something too that you can get into and have a lot of fun. But that aspect of having somebody in the boat with you, as a kid, it's hard to teach yourself everything. It's important to rely on yourself to find some fish and develop and get better, but you also need that guidance and all, and it's safer with an adult in the boat. So it is a good, high school is definitely a great way to get out there and get into it.
And the kayak industry is growing really fast. We're big kayakers. I work with Hobie, and Hobie kayaks have the Mirage pedal drive system in them that makes it easy to keep your hands free to fish while you're pedaling quietly through the water. The new 360 Hobie Mirage Drive, you can steer, move it around all with your feet, basically while you're casting and fishing. We've got 3 of them on the dock here at Guntersville, and we do a lot of fishing in them back here. My boys have learned a lot fishing out of those kayaks the last 4 years here. And tournaments of kayaks, Hobie's got a bass, the Hobie Bass Opens. You check your schedule on Hobie website, and they've got tournaments all over the country, as well as KBF. I know Kayak Bass Fishing, Chad Hoover, they've got a lot of them all over the country. So there's a lot of ways to get into tournament fishing in kayaks, and and it's like you say, it's an entry level way to get in, where you can, if you can't afford to get into other tournaments with a big Triton Mercury package, you can get in a Hobie kayak and do a lot and actually win a lot of money.
I noticed one thing too. You talk about things that you learn in a kayak that you can translate over into your bass boat fishing. A couple of the things is fish will get extremely shallow. Which I already like fishing shallow, but if you're a guy that gets scared when you get 5 foot deep, get 5 inches deep, and you'll still see bass there. Mm-hmm. And the thing is stealth. Like you'll really realize how many more bites you get when you're quiet, and then that translates back to the bass boats the same way. If you turn that trolling motor from 100 down to 30 and just kind of ease around, don't disturb the environment, don't throw a lot of water around, even if your trolling motor's quiet, you still just you have this presence that the fish can sense and feel. Yeah. And if you reduce that like you do when you get into a kayak, you see a lot more bites.
Yeah, I've learned that here living in this creek where I'm at in Spring Creek. It's real shallow back here, and it's not a lot of fish in and out of here year round. You got little spells of fish that'll come in if the water's high. But in a kayak, we never can catch the bass fishing out of my Triton big bass boat as we catch in that kayak. And it's just simply the fish sense and know that there's a boat in that water, treading deep in that water, compared to a little kayak that's like a feather floating on top of that water. And I mean, I've had the bass, almost run into the boat before, and I see them, I spook them, and they, and I see them right beside my kayak. Whereas the bass boat, you never get that close to them sometimes. So that definitely teaches you about being quiet. That's why when I come into these creeks in a bass boat, I always power pole down, and I'll make my way in with cast before I do with my boat. I'll make long casts before I ever get in there with the boat, and that helps you catch a lot more fish. Like I mentioned, with that long rod, with that Tatula Elite long cast reel, that extra 30 or 40 feet that I can cast in my distance with that reel and rod setup makes a difference in getting another bite or two sometimes.
And another thing, you're talking about fish running into the kayak. I've fished out of the kayak a decent amount now. I'm by no means a kayak professional, but I've noticed a couple times, and I've been a pond a lot of times too, but I'm sure it happens in public water. But I'll reel my bait in and I set my rod down, and one of them will come up 30 seconds later and snatch your rod in the water.
I've had that happen too before, and that don't hardly happen in a bass boat. That's what tells you, it, and it makes a difference. So it makes you remember how stealthy you need to be, especially in lakes like Guntersville, where you get a lot of pressure. They're seeing and hearing boats and noise all the time, and I really think it's a big deal to try to be real quiet.
We got another little deal we're doing, Randy Howell here. We're going to have a fish off challenge inside the app. We've started challenges in the ANGLR app, and this is pretty simple. You're challenged to go out and catch 10 fish in 10 days. So all you got to do, it's going to start today and go through May the 11th. So all you got to do is get out there and log 10 fish catches in the app, and you'll get a Randy Howell fish off challenge badge to go on your profile in the ANGLR app. So there you go.
Yeah, man, do it. These 10 fish in 10 days. Everybody should be able to do that during quarantine. You know that, because if you're not working, just go out and catch 10. Can you catch all 10 in one day, Shaye? It's got to be one day.
You can go out.
Yeah, y'all can do that.
Yeah.
And you can't beat that. You got to get that badge, man. And then you got to go tag. Then you got to come to my Randy Howell Fishing Instagram, Facebook page and let me know you got the badge. How about that? Let's do that.
All right. Saying, go out there and post your stories and tag Randy Howell. Maybe get a little repost.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's that. We're coming down to the end of the show, and at the end of the show, we like to do the thing that you always got to do before you put the boat in the water, which is put the plug in. And we're going to let you plug anything you want to, whether it's your beautiful, lovely, awesome wife, Robin, your boys, or or any sponsors, anybody you want to thank for letting you do what you get to do every day, just go ahead and put the plug in there, Randy.
Boy, I tell you, the list goes on and on. I mean, you can't thank everybody in one breath, but I sure got a lot of people to thank everybody. That's why I wore my jersey. I usually wouldn't wear this in a podcast, but tonight I'm wearing it because I appreciate all these people that take care of us and help us make a living. And TH Marine here, and a lot of them, Dale Benton Chevrolet, right up here in Gunnersville, and Benton Nissan. And that's another thing. You guys want to come down and fish, we got a big tournament coming up May 30th. It's open to the pros and all the public. The Benton Nissan tournament down at Lay Lake in Alabama, May 30th. Check out my Instagram, Facebook to get more information on that. It's a great tournament with $7,500 and a truck to win. So appreciate Dale Benton for doing that. And that's all about King's Home. So that's probably going to end this mostly. I thank all my sponsors, but King's Home that we help with down in Birmingham, Alabama, it helps all the kids and women we do the boat giveaway for every year. Man, those folks are really needing help. They're hurting right now because with the crisis going on in the country, people start tightening up and they quit giving to charities and places like King's Home because they're taking care of their own self. And so just remember, whether you don't have the money to help with a charity in your area or not, or you got clothes or food, anything you can donate or give during these tough times for people like King's Home. And if you're in the area, or you're going to buy a boat ticket this year, if it's going to be, in November when we give that boat away, if you can go on there and buy it early, that $100 donation to get that ticket to win that Triton boat in November could be used right now a lot more than it'll be used in November. So every $100 that gets spent on those tickets for that boat goes directly to those home budgets. So we're hoping to raise a bunch of money in November and just help the kids and women at King's Home right now by doing that. So, and Dale Benton's Benton Auto Tournament down at Lay Lake, May 30th. Also, all the money goes to King's Home there. So we're hoping to have a big turnout and raise $30,000 or $40,000 that day. And I'll be emceeing that tournament as well. So y'all come out of that May 30th. So I guess that's all the plugs for now. Thank everybody for watching us. Thank everybody for their prayers, and thank my wife Robin for definitely loving and putting up with this all these years and being my best teammate and partner to help make these sponsors look good and take care of all our people. And we hope to be back tournament fishing before long, but until we are, y'all just keep hanging in there. Keep your prayers, put Jesus first, and keep praying for the nation and praying for our leaders. And we're going to all get through it and fish through it, and just keep following us on Randy Howell Fishing on Facebook, Instagram, and we got some entertaining things coming up here in the weeks to come.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. Enjoyed it. It's been a good time catching up with you, and get out there and get in a kayak and catch me a couple out there behind the house in Spring Creek. I'd like to do it myself. I'm a little far away right now.
That's about right. It's time. It's getting right. They'll start moving in here soon to spawn. So we'll see you guys later, and y'all take care. God bless. Appreciate having me here tonight, and thank Ransom Dower for helping us with the sponsor of the ANGLR here on the app and the show.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.
All right. See y'all later. Bye-bye.
Well, that was a good time. Enjoyed hanging out with Randy Howell there for a little bit. Appreciate you guys participating, getting your questions in. I think we had a real good show. Like we had some viewership going on pretty strong there. So we'll check the numbers later and see how we did. But hey, you know what? It's all about having a good time. We're all just wishing we was fishing. That's the name of the show. I'm wishing I was right now. But if I can't be, might as well be talking to a hammer like Randy Howell. We got Hank Cherry, the 2020 Classic champion, up next week, Thursday night, 7 Central, 8 Eastern. Appreciate you guys. Enjoyed it. This is Shaye Baker, and I am out of here. Good night.